My name is Jason Medlock, and you're watching Expansion of Consciousness, where we explore the powers of the subconscious mind, learn to reprogram the mind for success using quantum hypnosis, teaching mental strategies for athletes, coaches, and business professionals that produce peak performance. Also using meditation and mindfulness to build more focus. Let's get to it right now.
I want to welcome you to the Transform Your Mindset Bootcamp with the fascination with the human mind. The fascination with consciousness is what drives you.
You cannot miss the fact that mental training techniques roll right in the dynamic of the actual training process. Wow. Good afternoon and welcome to the Mental Game Plan. I'm your host, Jason Medlock. And today we have a special guest. Michael Seiler will be with us today. And wow, we get a treat today because Michael has spent a number of years in the corporate world, but he's figured out a way to transform those skills along with mindset coaching principles into helping athletes. So I'm really excited that we get a chance to speak to Michael, which brings me to this point. There are a number of ways that athletes, coaches, people who are performing at the highest levels can learn, can bring strategies so they can handle pressure, they can perform under intense, stressful situations, and that they can train. But Michael Seiler brings a tapestry of experience from over 30 years in the corporate world, spanning human resources, television, and healthcare. His profound expertise in digital strategy and entrepreneurial spirit have led him to found several successful ventures in an e-commerce company and digital strategy. In 2017, Michael founded Stage 22 Performance. And in 2022, he co-founded Meta Endurance with Holly Benner, driven by a shared passion for endurance, athletic performance through a holistic approach. And we talk about holistic approaches here on this show. As a certified USA Cycling Level 2 and Enlifted Method Level 2 mindset coach, Michael's unique style is influenced by his journey as a collegiate soccer player turned endurance athlete. He is dedicated to nurturing high performance teams in sports and corporate settings, emphasizing a balance of mind, body, and soul. Michael resides in Louisville, Kentucky, where he continues to engage in bike racing, running, songwriting, and spending quality time outdoors with his family. Without any further ado, we're going to bring in Michael right now. Hold on one second, guys. Good afternoon, Michael. How are you?
Good afternoon. I'm doing well.
Awesome.
I'm going to need you to do all my introductions from now
on. I had one little mess up, but
no, it was great. I was getting pumped. I was like, God, I'm looking forward to this conversation.
I am too, and I'm glad that you decided to come on the show. I know you're a busy person, and this entire method coaching philosophy is just so it was so interesting to me. And I love interviewing coaches. I love interviewing athletes, former athletes, people who try and who inspire the peak performance of whether it be business persons, whether it be athletes or coaches. And that's just one of the things that you do. And you do so very well. But I want to get right to it. And I just want to know, Michael, what inspired you to transition from the corporate world to founding Meta Endurance?
That's a good question. So, I mean, I've been a lifelong athlete. Starting as early as 5 or 6, playing t-ball and soccer, and continued to do that all my life. Of course, working in the corporate world, as I started really coaching people in the corporate world, you realize there's a lot of crossover between um, sustained performance, and that's the word we use, versus peak performance. Um, peak implies you get to the top of the mountain and it's, but it's temporary. And what we're trying to do is really help people sustain a high level of performance. But my partner and I saw just a lot of crossover between not only the principles of endurance training, um, as they apply in a corporate setting, but you also find a lot of people in, you know, CEOs, high powered executives, and even just regular employees are also athletes. And by blending those two together, we can use a lot of the same language in how we help develop them, whether it's for their career or whether it's for some endurance event. Um, and I've always been fascinated by that crossover of how do you prepare for an event? How do you prepare to go talk to the board of directors or present to some company? A lot of that preparation and mental um, strengthening that you need to do for both of those just fascinates me. And that's, we started Meta, Holly and I. Um, she asked me, I had been coaching via my Stage 22 performance company, and she's my personal coach because coaches need coaches. And she asked me if I'd ever thought about partnering with another coach. And I said, yeah, but you're the only one I would partner with. And we chose Meta because it's a Pali word that means loving kindness. And you really have to start with yourself and treat yourself with loving kindness. And that's the way we approach it with our athletes, is teaching them the skills to balance their mind, body, and soul, so that they can have that balance in their life to achieve that sustainable high performance that they're after.
Wow, that's quite a shift, Mike. Very fascinating on how your corporate skills have translated to coaching. So that's commendable. But with your diverse background, just from the work that I've been observing that you've been doing, how do you integrate your corporate leadership expertise into mindset coaching, endurance with these endurance athletes?
I think the biggest thing, we see is um, you've got the physical part, which is the training plan,
Hmm.
which is, you're going to do sprint work on Tuesday, you're going to do endurance on Wednesday. Um, but you also have to deal with what's going on in their mind. What's the story that they're carrying around in their head? And we all have them. And they're often on just an infinite loop, repeating. And if those stories are strong, um, they're positive, they're uplifting, then their mindset's going to be strong. It's going to translate into strong performance. However, if that story that's on infinite loop is not a good one, it's a negative one, and we've all heard it. I should lose more weight. I should work out more. I should be a better dad. Whatever it is, we got to get that story reframed, get it out of their head.
Yes.
And so a lot of the work we do, whether it's with a corporate client or with my athletes, is doing what we call story work, which is, what is that story that you're telling yourself? Because we believe the definition of mindset is the story you tell yourself about yourself. So if you're telling yourself you're a strong, capable person, guess what? You're going to be a strong, capable person. If you're telling yourself you're a horrible person or you can't do something, guess what? You're going to be right. So a lot of it is really just working with them to understand, what is that story? How can we reframe it so that they can build that strong mental mindset that's going to help them get over the hump of, I'm experiencing high stress at work. Okay, how can we? If my mind's there keeping me in the game, um, you're going to get through that and realize it's just you got to get through this, and on the other side is a better time.
Yeah, and I would assume that there's some sort of intake process that you're sitting down with these athletes and or executives, just trying to understand what exactly it is
Mhm.
that you want, and
Yep.
tell me your story, so that you can, obviously provide the right types of methods and techniques, because we know everybody is different. And which brings me to my next question. What are some of those methods, those core principles that you use, and why do you choose to focus on them with particular clients?
That is a great question, and we definitely have an intake kind of process. We call it a discovery call or discovery meeting, because as a coach, I firmly believe
Yeah.
um, not every coach is for every person, because there's a lot of trust that you're going to build up and things you're going to share, and if you don't have that trust, you're not going to be able to make progress. And there are people that I've met with, and whatever they need help with, I might not be the person for them, but I want to help them find that person if I'm not the person for them. But it starts with what's their goal? What are they trying to accomplish? Whether it's a career transition, um, they want to do their first half Ironman triathlon. Let's get to the core of what you want to focus on. From there, it's really trying to determine what the right tool. We have a bunch of tools in our toolbox. Um, One of the big things that I do with my clients, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, is what we call story work. And it can be something from, I'll give you a good example. I had an athlete getting ready for a half marathon recently, and we've created this process where we have them write um, the story of their race weekend in the past tense as if it already happened. And then we go through that story. And what we're trying to do is create this, I don't want to say manifestation of what the outcome is, but it creates some mental pictures, some mental imagery that ultimately we come out of there with some, whether you call them power phrases, mantras that they can use in that weekend. So leading up to their event in the morning, they can be thinking about, I know what I'm doing. Here's my power phrases for my warm up, for my uh, preparation phase. Then during the race, I can have these on infinite repeat of I am capable, I am confident, I can handle the pace. Just so that those are the thoughts that are going through their mind, not this, oh, this is hard. I'm not feeling well. I can't do this. So a lot of it is really getting the words out of their head, working them through, reframing them, and that works for an event. It works for someone making a career transition, someone dealing with a difficult boss, for example. How do we help you build the tools, um, change your language, change your words, so that you approach these situations as a um, responding versus reacting is really what we're trying to do, is to do that pattern interrupt, to say, okay, I know what's going on. My inner judge is coming on. I need to turn the volume down on that noise.
Yeah, and this is why I do this show, and I love your response. And I've had a sports psychologist on who probably says the same exact thing that you say, but from a talk therapy standpoint. And then your responses, which includes mental and spiritual health,
Hmm.
sort of a more holistic approach. And even my approach, sports hypnosis, more of a working directly with the subconscious mind, doing the intake process, just as you talked about, the discovery process, understanding what exactly it is that you want. And one of the things I try to do is, once I know that, then let's figure out where the blockages are. And let's take a deep dive into using hypnosis to remove those blockages. So I want the audience to understand a number of different methods, and there's no one way.
No.
And that's why I'm glad that you decided to come on, because I really, really like your direction you're moving in. I want to ask you, can you describe success stories that illustrate this type of impact? with your coaching philosophy? Any success that just stands out in your mind?
There are a couple. I'll give a work, a career related one, and maybe a sports one. So depending on who's listening, it'll resonate with somebody. The work related one, I had a person that when I was still in the corporate world, had been at her company for almost about 24 years. So
Mhm.
long, successful career. Had been dealing with a difficult boss, a new leader that just they weren't seeing eye to eye. And she came to me and she said, I'm, I'm doubting myself. Um, I'm thinking about leaving. I mean, here's somebody who's been there for 24 years and once about to hang up their career because they just can't sort this out. And so I said, well, I've got a technique that if you're up for it, let's let's do it. So I had her write out the story of what she had this particularly difficult meeting, and I said, just write it like you're telling me about the meeting. Um, and then we just broke down the story, and we have a technique in the lifted method called four stepping, which really is about first getting the story on paper because it gets it out of their head where it's just building anxiety. And then we just start to break it down and really insert the breath, get the breath so it's out of their chest, and it's more low at what we call low and slow because that brings the flow, getting it down in their belly. But it puts them in observer mode and allows them to get a different perspective of what really went on in that particular situation. And by the end of it, we got through the four stepping of the story, and I said, "How you feeling?" And she looked at me and she says, "I'm at peace." And that's all you can ask for is she had came in at a 10 out of 10 of anxious, high emotion, and within 30 minutes she was back down to a 3 or 4, was at peace, realized it was just a difficult meeting, and she can figure out a path forward. Um, from a sports standpoint, I think the biggest is, and probably my proudest is, you can see over my shoulder the national championship jersey that my daughter won, and sh- uh, she broke her ankle, shattered her ankle, and had to have surgery plates. This was a year ago, and she had been training, ready to have the season of her life, and this happened. Totally freak accident. Um, and when that happened, she was down. Obviously, your career, your season's out the window. And so I flew out to Colorado, and I said, "All right, let's put a plan together, and start working the plan." And so we, through a combination of mindset, developing a training plan to get her back up and running. Um, and she worked the plan, and she ended up coming back in time for track nationals. It was really her first race back. She did one race prior to it and ended up winning the national championship jersey, because she trusted the plan, she trusted the process, and did the work, more importantly.
Wow, that's truly inspiring, Michael. Clearly, your coaching, it goes beyond just improving athletic performance. It's actually transforming lives. And the fact that I heard the magical words of breath work,
Yep.
teaching business professionals, teaching athletes the intelligence of the breath and how powerful the breath can be. And people really take that for granted. And I know that when you bring in new clients and they're saying the breath, what does that have to do with it? And you have to teach them exactly how the breath can regulate and control your anxiety, control your fears. Mixed in with a little meditation, obviously. And,
Sure.
and I and I guess, Michael, it just brings me to my next question on, how do you personalize training and coaching for diverse needs, from the professionals to the novice athletes?
Um, Great question. And this is really what I think sets Meta Endurance apart from other coaching companies, is that it really is, if you looked across our portfolio of athletes, you will not see, you'll see very little similarities between training plans, because I'll give you a good example. I'm starting working with a new athlete who has a very, um, very big job in her corporate life. She's got two kids, a husband that are very important to her, but she also wants to do hard things in the athletic realm. And so we sit down and say, great, how much time do you have each day that we can, work with? Um, and then we have to schedule around life. A lot of coaches are giving you a training plan, and that's about it. And a training plan doesn't care that you've got two kids that you love and want to spend time with. A training plan doesn't care that you have this high powered job that sometimes you're working 10, 11 hours a day. And so we want to build in flexibility, because that type of hard charging and do it at all costs, go hard, go home, just is not sustainable. And so, how do we build in, create a plan, a custom plan that is going to allow you to do the things that are important to you? If family is important to you, we need to make sure that we're allowing time for you to spend with your family, that you're not running off, 2 or 3 hours a day training. So that's really where we start. Is we start from ground zero. I don't care if you're I mean, we coach everything from professional athletes to CEOs to people doing their first 5K, and we start with where they are. And that's the key. Is if you're coming off the couch, we'll start there. If you've been running for a little while or biking for a little while, we'll start there. But it starts with where they are, and we build a plan around the rest of their life, and build in some flexibility, knowing life's going to get in the way. Kids get sick. You have to travel for work. You get injured. Um, and so we want to be there to adjust and make sure that their life is as balanced as it can be.
And just the way you play that up, I meet with people, I speak with people, and they have a plan, and I'm sure everyone personalizes their plan. But for that to be one of the focal and vital parts of your coaching strategy is impressive. That no, this is what we do. We. There's not
Right.
one strategy I have that's the same. I like that. It ensures everyone gets exactly what they need to succeed, and that's big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I look at coaching as, and this is why, I continue to read all the time, get better as a coach myself, learn new techniques and frameworks that I can use, because I approach coaching and I want to have a really big toolbox, because you're going to find a tool that works for one person that may not work for the next person. Some people, I mean, I'm going to introduce you to breath work because I think it's important. Uh, but
Absolutely.
but some people really struggle with it, and it's about finding what works and what doesn't work. And it starts with give it a try. If it doesn't work, then we find some other way to get at what we're trying to do with, say, breath work, or endurance running, or whatever.
Yeah, but Michael, when you're working with new athletes and you're trying to, on the physical side of getting this endurance running or cycling, to the level it needs to be, there's going to be some struggles. When I teach you
Yes.
different techniques, breath work, using your mind to clear your thoughts right before competition, yeah, you're going to struggle a little bit. Which brings me to the next question. Well, what are the challenges that you faced in mindset coaching with these athletes, and have you adapted your methods in your response?
Ooh, I love that question. there's a couple ways. One is putting people in situations that are going to challenge them, because that's where we grow, is overcoming challenges.
Yes.
There's a writer, Steve Magnus. He was the former uh, track coach at University of Houston, but he talks about just manageable challenges, something that's just out of their reach. Could be a workout, could be an event. It's not something that's way out of their reach, but something that's just, it's going to be a little bit of a stretch. And it could be a workout in the middle of their plan. And sometimes I do it thinking they're probably going to fail at this challenge. But more often than not, they they meet the challenge and they surprise
Mhm.
themselves. And a lot of it is, then let's talk about that, because I want that learning to really sink in, so that the next time they're facing that challenge, they've already done the sets and reps, to use a weightlifting uh, language. They've gotten in the sets and reps, so they're almost on mental muscle memory of, oh, here's a hard challenge. I do hard things. I'll figure this out. So we try to build that into their training, um, so that they do learn how to deal with these challenges as they come their way. And a lot of it also is just in how we, um, you know, whether it's getting them to meditate, find some quiet space.
Mhm.
Um, I often will give homework to my athletes. I'll tell them, hey, today I want you to go for a walk. I don't want you to be listening to anything. I just want you to think about your thinking. It's these kind of things, so that they can start to cement these things that they're learning in their training, that they're learning in our conversations, so they have their own toolbox, so that when they get in the middle, in that hard part of a race, they don't quit. They say, it's hard, but I do hard things. I know how to get through this, and I'll figure out a way.
Yes. That one-on-one time the athlete needs, the understanding who you are, the quietness, the 5 to 10 minutes a day, the put the cell phones down, business
Yep.
people, put down the computer,
Yep.
close the documents up, and spend that time with yourself, understanding yourself. Overcoming challenges is really a part of growth, and that's just that cannot be overstated enough. And I just the way you adapted is a strength in your coaching methodology, and that's very apparent to me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting. You mentioned the phone and the computer. Is It's hard to get people to just sit,
Mm,
and sometimes it's just they're uncomfortable with what's going on in their head, and you know it, it's just not something they do. But also our lives are, we feel this compulsion to just always be doing, versus taking, if I can get a client to go from zero quiet time to 5 minutes a day, that's a
mhm.
huge win, of just 5 minutes
It
of
is.
just staring out the window at nothing, or to go for a 20-minute walk and do nothing but think about what's going on in their head. Meditation doesn't have to be just on the mat
Mhm,
or the cushion. Meditation could be while you're swimming, could be a walk in the woods, could be on the bike, could be just, get up and go stare out the window. That's that's the key, and there's a lot of power in there. I love that, you mentioned about getting to know yourselves, and I think a lot of people don't spend enough time knowing themselves, and understanding, what's going on. But yet it's one of the keys to sustained performance.
mm. Michael, how important is technology, like in training peaks and in monitoring and planning an athlete's training regimen?
I see technology as a tool. It does not, Training Peaks is a great application. We use it with all our athletes. We're actually using it with some of our corporate athletes as well.
Mm,
Um, it allows us to plan their training. They can see what their schedule is. This is really important for our corporate, people who have a job. They can see, okay, I need to move that meeting so I can make sure I get that workout done. But it's just a tool, and it does
Right.
allow us to communicate. Um, and that's super helpful because I can see the numbers of your heart rate. I can see your pace. I can see maybe your power if you're on a bike. Um, what I can't see in Training Peaks is how you felt. What was going on inside your head? Was it a real struggle? Great, you hit the numbers, but did you really have to bury yourself to do it? So for us, we want to encourage more communication. Write us a note in Training Peaks to tell us how it went. Text me, email me, call me. And I have my athletes do that all the time. Heading into a race, had one earlier last week, heading into big conference championships in cycling for Collegiate, and had had a bad race the weekend before. Was feeling fatigued. He's like, "Hey, can we chat?" And I said, "Absolutely." So we chatted for about an hour, built a new plan for the week heading into conference championships. And he texted me Sunday night and said, "I won the road race." And so it's, that's what we want to encourage, is that communication, because I'm sure you see this with your clients, is that, seeing them, hearing them, hearing their voice, hearing whether is there stress, is there some words that they're using that signal we need to dig in there a little bit because something's going on. That's really important to us as a coach, so I can really address if it's something going on in your mind. Is it a physical thing? Is it something more spiritual that we need to talk about?
Right. I've always thought that utilizing technology to enhance the training, it was pretty forward thinking. I have two sons that are Division I athletes, and
Okay.
both of them got in the transfer portal this past December. One ended up at Prairie View A&M University. One ended up at SMU.
Okay.
And you get to see a lot of the technology that they're using, and monitoring heart rate, and monitoring when a guy is leveling out. So naturally it gives athletes an advantage,
Hmm.
edge in their preparation. So I've always found that pretty fascinating. But I got a question for you. What does a typical day look like for you when you're coaching?
Typical day is I'd like to get up in the morning and get my own training in. Um, it starts really in the morning. I get up. That's my quiet time, and I'm usually reading two books at a time. One is typically something along the coaching realm, but I spend some time in the morning by myself reading. That's my meditation, my quiet time. Um, Sometimes I'll be journaling then as well. From there, I get my workout in, and then the rest of the day really is responding to my clients' emails or comments in Training Peaks, building out their schedules. Um, I'm occasionally recording podcasts just to share what we do with other folks. But that's really a typical day in the life of a coach.
A busy day.
A busy, yeah. It's interesting. When I retired from the corporate life, I was thinking, "Oh, this is going to be great. I'm going to have all this free time,"
Right.
and that's not the case. I'm filling my time up with the stuff I really love to do, which is, working with coaching and working with athletes and working with people in the corporate world. So that's been the most rewarding part of being
Yeah.
able to
Yeah.
be a full-time coach now.
Yeah, all those responsibilities, balancing all the balancing act, it
Right.
certainly requires serious dedication. But what about you maintaining your endurance training alongside coaching these other guys?
Um, as I mentioned, I've been a lifelong athlete. I grew up playing soccer,
Mhm.
played up through college and a little beyond. Started getting into endurance sports. I was started racing bikes in high school, and that's really my passion. I just love riding my bike. So I raced bikes for a lot of years. As I've gotten older, really gotten into gravel racing. So long, these are 60, 70 miles, 5, 6 hours on the bike.
Mhm.
Um, I I just have always loved the process and just challenging myself. And that's I just recently, this past weekend, um, helped pace one of my athletes through a half marathon. So I just look out for challenges to keep me going. Um, do something fun. Run with one of your athletes. What a great way to spend 2 hours of your morning. But fitness is really important to me and my family. Um, I mean, everybody in my family. We had a rule growing up with our girls is they had to play a sport year round. We didn't care what the sport was. But my real goal is I wanted them to be lifelong athletes. And, my wife is an athlete. Both my girls have, been lifelong athletes. And that's really all I ever wanted is for them to lead healthy lives. And fitness is a key part of that. So I think even if I stop doing events, I will always be running and biking just because um, it fills me up, and helps me feel better, both mentally and physically.
Yeah, I'm gonna smile when I ask you about this because I just resonate so much with your coaching program, and I'm fascinated. And I mean, I'm not in awe, but I'm so in sync with what you guys are doing over there. I think it's fantastic. But the meta method integrates three core aspects: mind, body, and soul. Let's talk about
Yep.
those for a second.
Great. Well, we spent a bunch of time talking about really the mind side and um, you know, helping athletes or corporate people build the tools to maintain a positive mindset
Mhm.
so that they can handle the challenges that come their way. And obviously the body, which is whatever it is. You don't have to go off and do a full Ironman or 100-mile ride. Um, if it's just about maintaining health, it's like, okay, let's build a program that does that with some strength training and um, running or whatever your sport may be. And then the soul part, which we really haven't talked that much about, but it's really, the science says, you know, one of the keys to being happier is having a sense of purpose and having some sort of spiritual practice. It could be going to church, could be being involved in your church, it could be meditation, it could be something else, but some sort of um, this sense of purpose of I know what's important to me. I know that my values are aligned to that, and we spend a lot of time with our clients talking about what are your core values, what's important to you, because if let's say family is your number one uh, value, your top core value, and you want to go do a full Ironman, well, we're going to have to balance, the training that's required to do a full Ironman and the fact that spending time with your family is one of your most important things. All of a sudden, it's easy for those two to get misaligned. And that's where you start to have issues with performance, mindset. Um, so it's really how do we establish your core values? What's important? We mentioned the intake earlier, and one of the first things I have on my list as we're having that is like define your why. Why why are you doing this thing? Why do you want to coach? Because that helps me understand what's motivating them. And if they don't have a strong why, we need to talk about that because just saying, "Oh, I want to run a marathon because I want to," I want to do it. I want to be able to say I did it. Well, when you're at mile 22, I don't know that that's going to be a strong enough why to get you through those last 4 miles. So we need to figure out what's really driving you. What's the motivating factor behind why you want to do this.
And I just wish more of these guys out here, and I respect the type of work that each person does when they're working with athletes, mindset, sports psychology. But it just seems that more than a handful of the professionals in our industry are afraid of spirituality. They can't properly sell it. They don't want it to be looked at as woo-woo. And for that to be one of the integral pieces of your program, I'm just standing up proud because I use it in my program. I don't, what's for you is for you, and what's not for you is not for you. And
Right.
when you mask something that important that you're infusing into the process for a business person, for an athlete, and for even a coach, I just think it takes away from the authenticity of who you are in the program that you know works. So, and I think that people stand by what you believe work because they're trusting you, coach.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is weird. It's almost like some coaches just block out other parts of a person, and yet that's all in there. And so if someone, um, I coach, I got about 25% of my athletes are junior athletes, so they're 15, 16, 17. And I've got one athlete that is very involved in her church.
Hmm.
That's very important to her. And so we adjust her training, so that she can, attend to that need of hers, to that value of hers. Um, and while I'll still introduce her to Buddhist things, I'll introduce her to other stuff, but it's, you know, choose what's valuable to you, and maybe something will resonate by trying this other thing or listening to this other thing. But I think you're spot on. Is a lot of coaches do just like shy away from that, and yet it's so. And it doesn't have to be, church. We typically think spirituality. People think church,
Right.
and that makes a lot of people uncomfortable.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I mean, I grew up in the Episcopal Church.
Methodist.
Um, okay, I mean, I was in the church choir. I was a altar boy. I mean, I did all the stuff. I was in youth group. I mean, I consider myself a Buddhist now, but that upbringing was very important to me. I learned a lot of great lessons growing up in the church, and um, I think we should be talking about it because it's important to people. And I'm not going to tell you to go on a 4-hour ride on Sunday if going to church is the most important thing. But I think talking about it and acknowledging that it's very important to you, um, in your mindset, in your performance.
Hmm.
We all need that sense of purpose. We need some sort of belief in something greater than us, um, in order to really have that balance in life. And so to say, "Oh, we're only going to talk about body. We're not going to talk about mind or soul." Um, I don't know. We're doing our athletes and our clients a disservice by not working with them as a whole person. Is our belief.
I totally agree. Michael, what are some of your aspirations for meta endurance in the next few years?
Um, gosh, um, Holly and I have been, pleasantly surprised. When we joined together, I brought my client roster. She had her client roster. We've since grown probably, I think when we formed about almost 2 years now, I think we've doubled the number of clients we're working with now. Some of that is, we've gotten more athletes, but we've also, because we're also doing professional coaching, um, we've gained new people like, oh, I didn't know you did that. Could I, could you work with me? Sure. Um, so and that's all been very grassroots. It's word of mouth. People refer friends. In fact, this athlete that I'm going to start working with here this month, she was a referral from someone that I knew from work. Um, our real aspiration, and we've been very deliberate about this, we sat down and said, well, how should we be measuring our success? Like, how will we know we're doing well? And we were both very quick to say, it is not about money. It is not about the number of people we're working with. It's really the impact we're able to have in people's lives. Now that gets tricky. How do you measure that? So we're actually working on trying to figure out a way, whether it's through surveying or is it through getting testimonials, but we really measure ourselves by the positive impact um, that we are having in our clients' lives. Our kind of tagline is human performance coaching that it creates capable, inspired, and passionate people in work, sport, and life. And that's really what we want. It's almost like I want to leave you in a better place than I found you. So that you are, I mean, ultimately our goal will be when they don't need us anymore,
Right.
and they're really just continuing to work with us because we're friends, because they are at a point where they're able to understand today I need a rest day because I can feel it in my body. I'm attuned to my body because Holly and Michael have taught me how to pick up on those signals, and they've taught me how to make the right decisions about my training or what's going on in life. But that's really our goal, is to be able to have a positive impact in people's lives.
Well, I have no doubt that meta endurance will continue to impact many more athletes. It just appears that your passion and your dedication is quite evident. But I want to leave this time for you to talk about the program and let people know where you are, your web address, and
Sure.
yes, sir.
So I'll start with the easy stuff. So our web address, you can find us at METTA endurance.com. That's also our Instagram handle. We're most active on Instagram, whether it's posting videos or this past week we were celebrating wins. So our athletes were sending us pictures and celebrating a win they had. You can get our contact information is on our website, but you can also contact us via Instagram. We really have what we call 3 programs. One is Meta Endurance, which is really our athletic coaching. So if you're an athlete that's looking to take your performance, raise your performance level, or you need help training for a big event. We also have Meta Professional, which is our work with our corporate clients. And then we have Meta Performance, which is those that want both the athletic as well as professional coaching. You know, for us, I think one of the other stigmas is a lot of people think they don't need a coach. And yet you look, you know, Tiger Woods has a coach, Roger
Yes.
Federer has a coach, even I have a coach, because, you know, that's what we're there for, is whether it's to help with accountability, to be a more objective person, to see, you know, what, as we like to say, you know, call you on your BS, but to be out there and even if it's just something of, I'm thinking of a career transition, great time to work with a coach.
Mhm.
I've plateaued in my athletic training, great time to get a coach, because they can help you when you get stuck. And that's typically where we find most of our clients, is they're stuck. Either they're stuck at work, just need somebody to help them work through that, or they've plateaued and whatever they've been doing isn't working anymore. That's where a coach can really help you, you know, continue to grow and develop as a person.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you, Michael, for coming on the Mental Game Plan today. It's been such a pleasure for the audience, I know, and just for me in particular, to hear another professional that understands the needs of athletes, that the needs of your average everyday business person. I just want to thank you. Do you have any closing words for these young athletes out here, or aspiring business professionals that may be listening?
I think final words, if I had to do anything, is really, folks, learn to enjoy the process, because those moments of, you know, winning a race are very fleeting, and as soon as you've won that race, it's over. And so if you don't love that process, because you're going to spend more time climbing the mountain than you will at the top of the mountain. And if you don't love that climbing part, it's going to be a hard way to go. But that's where I think the growth really comes, is learning how to handle that climbing, handle those challenges that you come your way, and that's where you really start to build that sustainable performance.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. I'm going to move you to the back, Michael. And I'm going to close it out. I'm going to say some more wonderful things about you. So be prepared.
All right.
Okay. One second. Wow. Let me re-emphasize. Michael is a certified USA cycling level 2 coach. So endurance, I mean, he has that tool in his bag. And if you need to get better endurance, if you need to get better at running marathons or in a cycling competition or whatever sport it may be, he understands how to definitely fine tune the mind for that type of rigor. But then he's also an enlifted method level 2 mindset coach. And we know now what enlifted means because they focus on the body, focusing on programs that emphasize tailored exercises, optimizing your nutrition, in restoring your sleep and helping you understand what sleep is. And then they're focusing on your soul. We talked about the mind, but they're focusing on your soul, exploring spirituality, like we talked about, defining your personal purpose, fostering a sense of belonging within your community. And like Michael said, which came first, the mind, it's just cultivating mindfulness. And a lot of people wonder, what is mindfulness? Mindfulness is noticing everything that's around you and having gratitude, having appreciation for it. Noticing the way the wall feels in your home, the curvature of the television that you're watching, the breath that comes out of your nose and how intelligent the breath is when you can feel it on your lip. You know, when you are in mile, like Michael said, 22, noticing how the body is reacting with a fine understanding of the way you feel. Mindfulness helps sharpen your awareness, and it helps sharpen your focus. And I'm just so excited that we had such a quality trainer, coach on with us today. I want to tell you guys one thing. Believe in yourselves. Believe in this prolonged performance that you're seeking. This prolonged performance in your workplace, on the gridiron, in the endurance realm. Just believe in yourself. And I always leave you with these last 3 words: relax. Trust, relax, and focus and discover. And I said focus, but discover. Thank you so much for listening to the Mental Game Plan. And we are glad that you have continued to support us. And if you want any more information about this particular episode, it will be in the show notes at the bottom of the page. Until now, good night.